The fall of 2024 found a celebrity at the center of the media hurricane. Kourtney Kardashian, known for her ability to capture trends, presented a supplement called Lemme GLP-1 Daily and assured that it was a natural way to control hunger and support weight loss. With great display on networks, many interpreted that green bottle as the accessible version of famous injectables such as Ozempic or Wegovy. A few months later, headlines spoke of class action lawsuits and the product was under the magnifying glass. How far does science go and where does marketing begin? The GLP-1. Context. Receptors for the hormone GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1, have been targeted for diabetes and obesity drugs for years. This hormone is released by the intestine after eating and has powerful effects. It stimulates insulin secretion, inhibits glucagon, slows gastric emptying, and sends satiety signals to the brain. However, endogenous GLP-1 is fleeting. Its half-life is only 1 to 2 minutes because the DPP-4 enzyme degrades it quickly. That is, after a postprandial peak, its levels return to normal in a matter of minutes. To achieve long-lasting effects, the pharmaceutical industry developed GLP-1 receptor agonists. Drugs such as liraglutide and semaglutide mimic the hormone, but with modifications that protect them from degradation. Semaglutide, for example, binds to albumin and has a half-life of 5.7 to 6.7 days. That is why a weekly injection is enough to maintain therapeutic levels and achieve notable weight loss. The market exploded in 2024. Demand for Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro generated sales in excess of $25 billion and is projected to reach $50 billion to $133 billion by 2030. That explosion created problems: high prices, shortages of injectables, and adverse effects such as nausea, vomiting, or loss of muscle mass. At the same time, social networks popularized the hashtag #Nature's Ozempic, fueled by influencers who recommended plant substances to naturally activate GLP-1. Users frustrated by cost or waiting lists were looking for alternatives. Blogs and wellness media began to publish lists of foods, probiotics, and plants such as Ariomin, lemon extract, Supresa, saffron, or Morosil, red orange. Although some ingredients had preliminary studies, most of these products were sold as supplements and did not need to demonstrate clinical efficacy to go to market. In September 2024, in that context, the company Lemme, owned by Kourtney Kardashian, launched a supplement called GLP-1 Daily. The choice of the name caused many consumers to associate it with agonist drugs, even though the product did not contain any pharmacological molecules. The promise was clear. Supports GLP-1 production, reduces hunger and cravings, promotes fat reduction, and aids in healthy weight management. The brand stressed that it was a supplement, not a drug, but the use of the term GLP-1 in capital letters was striking in the midst of Ozempic fever. To many, the green bottle seemed like a quick, natural way to the body they desired. The launch and the promise. The presentation of GLP-1 Daily in September 2024 was carried out with the typical Kardashian machinery: Instagram campaigns, TikTok videos, and media appearances. The list price was $89 to $90 per month, and discounts were offered if the consumer subscribed for 3 to 6 months. Marketing pushed subscriptions. The ads suggested that prolonged use boosted results, which multiplied revenue per customer. It was highlighted that the product was clinically studied and focused on 3 ingredients. Ariomin, a patented lemon extract rich in flavonoids. According to its supplier, this ingredient increased GLP-1 levels by an average of 17.5%, up to 22%, in 3 randomized clinical trials. These studies were carried out with 200 milligrams daily and measured glucose and satiety markers in pre-diabetic people. Lemme used that data on the product page, stating that Ariomin helped support LPG-1 production. Supresa, or Satiriol, an extract of saffron. A study cited by the provider showed that in 8 weeks, people who took Supresa had 55% fewer snacking episodes compared to 28% in the placebo group, 69% reported less hunger before eating, and the average weight loss was approximately 2.12 pounds. The company presented it as a modulator of appetite and mood. Morosil, an extract of red orange, Moro. In a 6-month double-blind trial, participants who took 400 milligrams daily, along with a low-calorie diet and exercise, reduced their body mass by 4.2% compared to 2.2% for placebo. BMI, waist and hip circumferences, fat mass, and fat distribution also improved. Although the study didn't mention GLP-1, Lemme incorporated it into the formula to support weight loss. Lemme's official website stressed that the 3 ingredients were clinically studied and that the product does not contain GLP-1, nor is it an agonist. Even so, the construction of the brand with the acronym GLP-1 generated the feeling that the supplement operated in the same mechanism as the drugs. The promotional images showed the acronym in large letters while, in small print, it was clarified that the product was not a substitute for a drug and should be accompanied by diet and exercise. Many consumers did not review the fine print and were left with the idea that a bottle of capsules could replicate the action of an injectable. The company also promoted testimonials and reviews from users who claimed to have controlled hunger and lost weight thanks to GLP-1 daily. These reviews, combined with the presence of a celebrity, drove early sales. In a market saturated with promises of well-being, the Kardashian seal was a differentiator. However, the science behind the mix wasn't as robust as marketing suggested. Science versus science marketing. To understand why a supplement that promises to increase natural GLP-1 cannot compete with an agonist drug, it is necessary to review the pharmacokinetics of GLP-1. As mentioned, endogenous GLP-1 has a half-life of 1 to 2 minutes because it is rapidly degraded. After eating, blood GLP-1 levels increase by 5 to 10 picomoles per liter and can reach 40 to 50 picomoles per liter before falling. The lawsuit against Lemme highlights that the simple act of eating increases LPG-1 between 400 and 900%. Therefore, an additional 17% increase provided by Ariomin is negligible compared to the natural stimulus. Pharmacological agonists, on the other hand, raise GLP-1 concentrations by 300,000% to 600,000% and maintain that level for days. For example, semaglutide is administered weekly and produces sustained effects that go far beyond a temporary increase in the hormone. This explains why drugs achieve weight loss of 10 to 15% of body weight in clinical studies, while simply stimulating the endogenous hormone a little more has modest and short-lived effects. In addition, the studies cited by Lemme focus on individual ingredients, not the combination of Ariomin, Supressa, and Morosil. The lawsuit stresses that clinically studied does not equate to clinically proven. Ariomin trials demonstrated increased GLP-1 and reduced glucose but did not observe significant changes in body weight, BMI, or waist/hip circumference. Supressa showed reduced snacking and appetite, but weight loss was modest, approximately 1 kilogram in 8 weeks. Morosil had positive weight loss results in a 6-month study, but the effect occurred in a context of diet and exercise, and the mechanism of action is not linked to GLP-1. There is no evidence that combining these 3 extracts causes a synergistic increase in GLP-1 or a significant effect on weight loss, and the lawsuit notes that Lemme did not conduct a clinical trial of the full formula. Another critical point is the interpretation of the 17% increase in GLP-1 that Lemme used in his marketing. This percentage comes from studies with Ariomin and referred to a relative increase compared to placebo, not an absolute increase in blood. Since GLP-1 levels spike several times a day with meals, a 17% increase represents a difference of few picomoles and does not correlate with behavioral changes. The lawsuit argues that such a small increase would have no discernible impact on appetite or weight. Even Ariomin providers recognize that the hormone is rapidly degraded and that its activity is limited by the action of DPP-4. Finally, the expression supports the production of GLP-1 plays with semantics. As it is not a drug, the supplement does not activate receptors or mimic the hormone, but rather provides compounds that could facilitate secretion. The brand did not directly claim increases GLP-1 by 17%, but insinuated through charts and testimonials that the combination of ingredients would produce agonist-like effects. The absence of robust trials, the short half-life of the hormone, and the abysmal difference between natural and pharmacological production led experts to describe the promise as exaggerated. As an article by specialized lawyers pointed out, saying that the ingredients were studied does not mean that the product is clinically proven. The claim may lead the consumer to believe that there is evidence of efficacy that does not exist. The demands. The illusion ended in February and March 2025, when class action lawsuits were filed in California and the Southern District of New York against Lemme. The lead plaintiff, Christina Robbins, argued that she purchased GLP-1 daily after seeing advertising suggesting that the supplement increased GLP-1 and helped with weight loss. After taking it for more than 3 months, far from losing weight, she gained 5 pounds. The lawsuits allege that the company engaged in false advertising, violated consumer protection laws, and deliberately sought to confuse the purpose of the demands offer details that allow you to understand the marketing strategy. According to the document, Lemme sold the product at $90 per month, with offers of $378 for 6 months. The company recommended continuous use for 3 to 6 months to get better results, encouraging customers to make a long-term commitment. The website stated that the supplement, it supports the production of LPG-1. It reduces hunger and cravings, promotes fat reduction, helps with healthy weight management with diet and exercise. These claims were accompanied by a comparative chart that differentiated GLP-1 daily from pharmacological agonists, noting that the supplement did not contain GLP-1 and that it was natural. In the plaintiff's view, the campaign subtly suggested that the supplement offered similar benefits to drugs, but without their side effects or the need for a prescription. The lawsuit underscores that Lemme used the term GLP-1 in the name to capitalize on the popularity of Ozempic and other injections, even though he knew that his product did not replicate the mechanism of action. The legal document also highlights the gap between science and marketing. It notes that the studies cited by the company did not demonstrate significant weight loss, that the 17% increase in GLP-1 was physiologically irrelevant, and that the combination of ingredients was not clinically evaluated. Also, remember that GLP-1 levels naturally increase after eating much more than with Ariamin, and that agonists raise the hormone hundreds of thousands of times over several days. The text launches a forceful sentence. If a 17% increase in GLP-1 were enough to lose weight, the pharmaceutical industry would not have invested decades in developing agonists with half-lives of days. From a legal point of view, the company has described the lawsuits as frivolous and has stated that it will defend the science of its ingredients. Ariamin's suppliers, Supresa and Morrisil, have come out to back up their data, insisting that the studies were peer-reviewed and that the ingredients have benefits for blood sugar, appetite, or body composition. However, even proponents acknowledge that there is no data on the combination formula, and that the use of the acronym GLP-1 in a supplement is unusual in the industry. Legal experts consulted in nutrition media have pointed out that the lack of clear regulation on GLP-1 supplements creates a vacuum that gives rise to litigation. To date, the FDA has only issued a warning letter to one company using similar claims. The rest of the control falls to private demands. The lawsuits are still ongoing, and no judgment has been issued. Economic compensation is sought for deceived consumers and changes in the labeling and advertising of the product. The case has become an example of the fine line between taking advantage of a trend and crossing into the terrain of misleading advertising. Their result could set precedents for the use of pharmacological terms in dietary supplements. Dark finance, where was the money? Beyond the science, GLP-1 Daily reveals a carefully studied trading strategy. The price of $90 a month is high for a supplement, but it doesn't seem like it when compared to $900 injectables. The brand openly promoted 3 or 6 month subscriptions, arguing that the body needs time to adapt and that results improve with prolonged use. This dynamic creates a high customer lifetime value. The consumer shells out at $270 to $540 before evaluating whether the product works. For a wellness company, revenue recurrence is key. Marketing was based on 3 levers: celebrity and brand halo. Kourtney Kardashian's presence generated trust among her followers. The product was promoted on its Instagram account with millions of views. The narrative included photos of the businesswoman taking the supplement and comments about her health concerns. Clinical language without being medicine. Words like clinically studied, study-backed ingredients, and GLP-1 production lent scientific legitimacy to a product that was not approved by the FDA. The comparison with agonists reinforced the idea that it was a gentler and more natural alternative. User-generated content and reviews. Testimonials on the web and social networks spoke of reduced appetite, less snacking, and weight loss. Many of these testimonials lacked context about diet or exercise and could be influenced by the desire to please the brand or get reposted. The risk of this strategy became clear with the lawsuits. Misleading advertising exposes the company to fines and compensation, and reputational damage can affect other Lemme product lines. In addition, reliance on proprietary ingredients means that any questioning of their efficacy directly affects the value proposition. Finally, the use of the name GLP-1 for a supplement could attract the attention of regulators if the term is considered misleading. Red flags. The case of Lemme GLP-1 Daily leaves lessons for consumers. Here are some red flags that should set off the alarm when evaluating a supplement. Use of pharmacological terminology in the name. A supplement called GLP-1 may give the impression that it acts as a drug. However, because it does not contain the hormone or an agonist, the association is misleading. Promises to increase hormones with striking figures without context. To say that an ingredient increases GLP-1 by 17% may sound spectacular. When you consider that eating increases the hormone by 400 to 900%, and that the drug raises it by 300,000%, that 17% becomes trivial. Claims based on ingredients, not the product. Studies of isolated ingredients are frequently cited, and the results are extrapolated to the complete formula. This is not equivalent to testing the product on humans, and the effects of the combination may not match those of each compound separately. Asterisks and small print. On Lemme's page, many claims had asterisks that led to clarifications such as, "These results were obtained with diet and exercise," or, "This product is not a substitute for a balanced diet. It is always advisable to read the footnotes and not get carried away by the headline." Vendor-funded studies. Many trials are sponsored by the companies that sell the ingredients, which can skew the results. In addition, sample sizes are usually small and the effects are modest. The methodological quality and size of the studies should be considered before relying on them. Premium price and subscription pressure. An expensive supplement that also incentivizes long subscriptions should provide a clear justification. If there are no strong trials to support efficacy, we may be paying for marketing rather than tangible benefits. Identifying these signals helps navigate a market saturated with products riding the wave of the latest trend. The criticism does not imply that all supplements are useless, but it does invite to demand clinical evidence and transparency. What happens now? In mid-2025, the lawsuits against Lemme are still ongoing. Possible outcomes include dismissal if the courts find that the allegations do not meet legal standards, a transaction that compensates consumers and forces the company to modify its advertising, or a precedent-setting ruling on the use of pharmacological terms in supplements. The legal uncertainty has already generated headlines that could deter some consumers. The Lemme case has put other brands under the microscope. Following the rise of the hashtag #Nature's Ozempic, dozens of companies launched products that promised to support GLP-1 or mimic natural Ozempic. The press and regulators are beginning to review these claims. Some food law experts believe that terms linked to medicines should be banned in supplements to avoid confusion. On the other hand, advocates of the sector point out that current legislation allows the use of general names as long as a specific medical claim is not made. Beyond the legal outcome, the case has already had a social effect. It has sparked debate about the limits of marketing in the wellness industry and about the responsibility of celebrities when promoting products. He also reminded the public that when a trend promises quick and natural results for weight loss, it is necessary to review the evidence behind the label. Closing. The story of Lemme GL-P1 Daily sums up the tension between wellness, science, and business trends. A hormone with a complex name became a mass phenomenon thanks to effective but expensive drugs. Scarcity and desperation for an alternative fueled a market for supplements that were dressed in clinical language. A celebrity seized the moment and launched a product that promised to be the natural shortcut. However, biology is not fooled. Slightly increasing natural GLP-1 does not come close to the effects of long-acting agonists, and combinations of extracts are not a substitute for rigorous clinical trials. The case leaves several reflections. On the one hand, expectation engineering is also revenue engineering. A product's chosen words, highlighted percentages, and aesthetics can generate millions in sales before there is a single solid proof. On the other hand, the responsibility lies with both companies and consumers. Companies should avoid misleading language shortcuts and back up their products with evidence. Consumers, for their part, should read beyond the headline, seek out independent studies, and be wary of too-good-to-be-true promises.